everyone, it's Shell from Scrap Secrets and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we're going to create our own background on craft cardstock by stamping a couple images from a stamp set and then using some Copic markers to color it in. I'm going to choose the floral image from Fairy Friends from Lawn Fawn. And we're going to stamp it onto a piece of craft cardstock with some Craft MFT hybrid ink. I'm stamping this on several times and making sure that I stamp it slightly at an angle and stamping it on and off the cardstock. I apologize for Lucy's head being in the way. You're going to see her a lot in this video for lack of a better word. She has been up my butt for the past 2 weeks. And we'll talk a little bit about what's been going on when I do the coloring portion of it. I left a lot of the coloring in so we could kind of have a craft and chat because I haven't done one of those in a while. So we're working on the background by stamping that image a bunch of times. Like you can see, I am tilting it slightly, just trying to fill in as much of the space as possible. And the great thing about this is it's a large image, and I like to stamp those images first when I'm stamping my own backgrounds. And then we're going to fill it in with some of the smaller images from the stamp set. So there's a cluster of 3 diamonds and then a single diamond, and I'm going to fill in the areas. Now this can be considered an old school technique. This was, again, one of the very first techniques that I learned when I didn't have a lot of supplies and I didn't have a lot of pattern paper, which is kind of ironic now because I have so much pattern paper. But when I first started and I wanted to customize my projects, this was one of my favorite ways to be able to do it because you can stamp it in whatever color ink you want and then color it in so it can match any project. I loved doing this, especially when I did scrapbook pages. So I tended to make my own pattern paper when I did that. So again, I'm just filling in all of those areas with the cluster of the diamonds, and then I'll go in with that single diamond and go ahead and stamp that in. So I'm just trying to fill in as much of the areas as possible. I don't plan out where I'm going to stamp the images, but I do make sure that I stamp things off of the page. I don't have all full images on the background because that makes it look like you cut down a piece of pattern paper. Just think about it, when you cut down a piece of pattern paper, you don't have one full pattern on there. You're going to be cutting off parts of it. So this makes it a little bit more believable as a piece of pattern paper. So I did put this aside to dry for a couple of minutes because it is the hybrid ink and I was going to use I am using Copic markers, so I wanted to make sure that the ink was nice and dry before I went ahead and colored on this. Now, when you color on craft cardstock with Copic markers, it does not give you a very bright result. Your colors are going to be dulled, which is fine with me. That was the look that I wanted to go for. I didn't do any shading here. I just used one color per part. So for all of the stems, we're going to use Y06, and then we are going to use an RV for the pink, a BV for the purple, and then I used I think a Y06 for the yellow. So I tried to show the colors on here. So while you're watching me color all of these in, because I left a lot of this in, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about what's been going on because I was making videos a little bit more regularly and then I stopped. 2 Fridays ago, actually about a month ago, I just had a massive amounts of pain and everything hurt from my head to my toes. I may have talked about this in another video, and I was just in so much pain. I did, and then I went to the float and I did that, and I had a really great experience. So 2 Fridays ago, I went and did another float. And Fred had been having a little bit of trouble for maybe the day or 2 before that. And I was really worried about it. And I ended up having a panic attack in the middle of the float. My mind went to the worst places because you're laying there and you have literally nothing to think about, but you just have a bunch of time. So, thoughts were creeping into my head, and it was definitely not a relaxing float. I tried to not think about the anxiety or panic attack that I had while I was in there. I tried to overcome my negative thoughts, and I did a little bit better. I really thought I was going to get out in the middle of the float. I didn't. I completed the whole hour, but I came home and I was packing to get ready to go down the shore for Memorial Day weekend, and Fred was having a hard time walking. So I called my mom. I FaceTimed her, and I was telling her that I didn't think that I was going to come down on Friday. And she said that's good because she tested positive for COVID. So that was rough. This is her second time having COVID. And while I was on FaceTime with her, Fred started panting. He started sticking his tongue out and panting really hard. And I started freaking out because I've never seen him do this before. Didn't know what it was. Rushed him to the vet that's across the street, just a regular vet. They called for triage when he got there. He was calm, and they saw him. They really can't tell me anything because he wouldn't walk while we were there, but it was because he just didn't want to walk. He gave me a little bit of trouble when we were at the house. Oh, when I was at the house too. I said he was having trouble walking, he was in my office and I heard him cry, and he doesn't really cry. I went into my office and he had fallen down. So I picked him up and he was not standing up. He wouldn't put any weight on any of his legs. I brought him into my room because I was freaking out that this was happening again, and he threw up, and then he was fine. He would walk. So I was like, okay, well, hopefully that's, it was just nothing. And then he did the panting thing while I was on the phone with my mom. So, of course, he was like a car. And when you take him in to get looked at, he wasn't doing any of the things that he was doing. So brought him home, was getting ready to get in the shower. I left him in the bathroom. So I closed my bedroom door, and he was doing the panting again. So I laid down with him, had him calm down and relax a little bit. He seemed to be doing a little bit better, having a little bit of trouble walking. I was giving him Cosequin again. I had stopped doing it for a little while because he was doing good. He hadn't been jumping up on the bed in a couple of days, and that was unusual for him because he likes to jump up and be on the bed with me at night, and he wasn't doing that. I had tried to coax him up earlier, and then after that he jumped down and had a hard time, and after that was when he was acting up. So then I was blaming myself for pushing him when he didn't want to jump up. I was trying to make him jump up. So beating myself up. Spent the whole weekend, Memorial Day weekend, basically in my house, kind of trapped in the bedroom with him, just keeping an eye on him. Did get a chance to go out to Target for a little bit for one day. But then he walked down the steps, and then a couple days later, he jumped up on the bed. So I have no idea. We're taking things day by day. I did go down the shore today, so I did leave them alone for the longest period of time that they've been home alone by themselves. And he seems to be doing okay. So we're just keeping an eye on him and taking everything day by day. But it's been a little crazy over here. My mom is feeling better after the whole, positive COVID again. So it's just been, like I said, when it rains, it pours. So we are doing a little bit better. Now back to the card. I'm using B00 to fill in the little stars. I wanted to do a little bit of sparkle, but I decided against it because I am going to use some sparkle in the fairies' wings once I stamp them out. But I didn't want that to just be craft color cardstock. So when you use this really, really light color, again, these colors are not going to show up vibrant and bright on here, but it is going to look colored in. So it kind of just looks almost, for lack of a better word, wet, like the area is a little bit darker. So now we are stamping out the 3 fairies onto some scrap cardstock that I had. It's the same exact one as the background. I'm going to stamp them out 3 times in that same craft color cardstock. There's 3 different fairies that are included in this, and then I'm going to use those same colors to color them in. I'm going to use the green, the purple, the pink for their dresses, and they're all going to have yellow for their hair. I didn't want to introduce another color. I was thinking about possibly doing some brown in there, but I didn't want to add any other colors to it. I kind of wanted to try to keep it to those same 4 colors that I had used, not including the B00. So you see, I'm just doing some very, very basic Copic coloring in, I did not do any shading, nothing like that. It's going to be a very, it's just very, very basic because it's on craft cardstock. I just wanted to get some color down. I have not colored on craft cardstock in a really, really long time. Usually when I do things on craft, I will use colored pencils because I think they look really great. But if you remember the great, what the heck is it called? Oh my goodness. I just had the word in my mind. Oh, geez. The Gamsol, the great Gamsol debacle that I had maybe like 6 months ago, where the entire bottle of Gamsol spilled over into my cart. I haven't used colored pencils other than the watercolor ones lately. So I just thought, let's use the Copic markers with this. And you can see I'm going over their wings with the B00. We will go over that with a Spectrum Noir sparkle pen after this, because I did want to give it a little bit of shine, because of course, how can you not have some sparkle and shine with some fairies? So I'm going to finish coloring those in, and then I did fussy cut them out. I did cut this out of the video because you don't want to sit here and watch me fussy cut any of this out. I did use my scissors, and I did have a really difficult time with this because these were smaller images. I probably should have used my Brother Scan and Cut, but I just didn't feel like opening it and doing all that for 3 small images. So instead I made my life miserable and cut them out by hand. I haven't cut anything out in a really long time. I haven't done any fussy cutting. So it was a little bit of a difficult experience for me because I have not been doing that for a while. I need to go find my Fiskars scissors to use those ones. I'm using the Tim Holtz ones, and they're definitely not as easy on my wrists as the Fiskars ones are. So I have the Fiskars ones in some other rooms in my house. I'm just going to have to bring one of the pairs back down into the craft room. So like I said, once the sparkle wings are all done through the magic of editing, here are the 3 images that I have cut out. And I'm just going to place them down onto the card and kind of do like a little triangle pattern. When you're doing things in 3s, I generally try to do something in a triangle fashion. I'm using the Honeybee Bee Creative glue on there. And again, you will see Lucy's tail in this entire thing, so I apologize. I didn't know how much of her actually got into this video because I can't see when I'm taping this. So I said I'm using that Honeybee Bee Creative glue to just put these into place. And then I thought that I was going to want a sentiment on the inside, but I decided that I want it on the outside. And I decided this after I already glued it down to the card base. So it's at this point you're going to want to look at it and see if you want to do the your sentiment on the inside or the outside. I would recommend stamping it before you glue everything down, but I always have to do everything the hard way. I'm using that same Honeybee Bee Precision glue to glue it down to a 4 1/4 by 5.5 inch black card base. And I'm also going to stamp the sentiment in black because I thought it just made it stand out a little bit. I actually thought that I was going to stamp it onto some craft cardstock, but I decided to go ahead and put it right to the front. I was going to use the craft cardstock if I was for a sentiment strip for the inside, but I decide to just stamp that whole sentiment right to the front of the card. So I decided to make it a thank you card. I don't have a lot of thank you cards lying around, and I thought this one would just be really, really cute. I've used this stamp set 1 or 2 other times before, and I just love these little fairies. I love Lawn Fawn stuff. I think their images are so, so sweet. I'm using the Lawn Fawn Jet Black ink to ink up the sentiment. It stamps out so beautifully. I do have to stamp this twice because Lucy's floof, you can't see, but at the top of the Misty, Lucy's floof was actually getting into the Misty. So anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. If you have comments or questions, please feel free to leave them below, and I'll see you again real soon for another video. Bye!